EON strategy is to focus on experiential learning and knowledge transfer in three areas: government, what we call Human 2.0, academia, Classroom 3.0, and finally industry with Enterprise Solution, Industry 4.0. I will explain those, but focus today mainly on the governmental aspects. But first, let me give you an example, concrete example, how this can manifest itself. We're going to see a short video, and I'm going to jump through it, from a partnership that EON has established in Italy with the government of Emilia-Romagna, together with a university, local university and industry. So what we're seeing here is a video that was taken in conjunction with the grand opening of a center of excellency that we've established together with the government and local academia. It's a big area. It's about 30,000 square feet or 3,000 meters. And it's what we refer to as a triple helix. And what does a triple helix mean is that we collaborate between industry and academia and also government. And this will make a lot of sense in a second when I explain how and why we do that. But first, let's just enjoy the center. The center's purpose is to create awareness. We had at the inauguration the top companies in Italy, but also in the region: Ferrari, Maserati, Ducati, Bugatti, Toyota. The voice you hear in the background is actually the rector of
as we taught yesterday's, we wrote them of tomorrow.
Yeah, so this is the rector of Bologna University, one of the oldest universities in the world. And they are using this for their diploma courses. If you want to read more about it, you can Google it. And this is actually walking the talk. But what's exciting about this is the meeting point. And I think this image here represents it. You can see a range of players, from the rector to the local government, as Minister of Finance, to the governor itself, a representative industry from around the region. Let's continue. The second example is another activity we have with governments together with academia in Singapore. And we have a center there where the government has provided funding to NTU. NTU is rated number 11 in the world. And this center is quite exciting because not only does it attract people from Singapore, but it's also a beacon of light for the region, Asia. So we had more than 450 visitors at the last event. And again, the same thing: awareness, understanding, and belief.
To ensure our students have those foundational skills, and they need to be able to practice in a safe space. And the way of doing that in a realistic environment is using AR and VR technology.
Yes, as you can see, there were a lot of distinguished guests from actually around the world, but quite a few from Asia. So Asia is very invest a lot in this area.
Have not changed as fast as the world around us. There is need to create opportunities for continuous learning. We must learn faster and more flexibly. Learning to learn, being able to acquire new skills, and thinking critically and creatively are some of the key factors for the education of tomorrow.
So this is a good example of how island, state, and nation is really upskilling the workforce using this technology. We've had implementation not only at this university, but more than 24 academic institutions and in collaboration with government. And Singapore is a very good example of how this is done. Interesting enough, based on Singapore's success, now China is moving very aggressive forward. We have implementation, multiple locations around China, and also moving forward in Japan and the rest of Asia. And the last example is Morocco. It's a country that most people don't necessarily connect with high tech. And this is a partnership between ourselves, the local government, Minister of Industry, Minister of Education, but also it's co-founded with USAID, which is the world's largest aid organization from US, that is very supportive of our activities around the world, but especially in developing countries, of course. There's a lot of text in Arabic, so we're not going to listen to everything here. But what we do initially is we started with uplifting predominantly 7,000 students and workers. That's what we're doing now. And in the area of automobile, maintenance, repair, operation of aerospace, etc. Okay, so those were a few examples. Let's now go to the key problem. So as I travel around the world and had the opportunity to talk with ministers, I've been interviewing and discussing with Minister of Education, Minister of Industry, Minister of Entrepreneurship, etc. There's a problem that always seems to keep people up at night. And it has to do actually with technology, because technology disruption kills most jobs today. And paradoxically creates most jobs. So on one hand, lights are going out for truck drivers, radiologists, and we see that increasing over the next decade. At the same time, the technology opens up new doors. And this manifests itself in the statistics. This is a statistic from US. It says the blue line looks at the new jobs, and unfortunately the orange one shows how many of them are hired. And the reason for this gap is that there's lack of skills. So we need to more rapidly address the needs. In fact, the problem is so difficult or so bad, if I may use that word, that by 2030, half of the workers in Japan and 33% of the workers in US, if they don't get retired, they may be displaced, according to McKinsey Global Institute report. So that's not far away. That's 11 years from now. And if you look at which jobs disappear, which jobs appear, routine, manual or cognitive are disappearing. But the area that's interesting and requires retraining is non-routine. So it's not only the very high educational jobs, there's also things regarding skills in healthcare, technical, engineering, and creative. Now, there's two scenarios here that I would like to paint. It reminds me a little bit like the Matrix movie, if you remember the blue pill and the red pill. So the negative scenario is that machines take over more and more. So most jobs that exist today will disappear within a decade, and we get the new class of people that might emerge displaced, or I know someone called them useless. I will never use that word, but that's a scenario that some people fear. In fact, I don't believe in that scenario. In fact, Elon Musk tried to do this with a factory, and he concluded that humans are underrated. He tried to replace all humans with robots, and it worked very well. Now he's reintroduced humans. So I believe, and I'm not alone, we are today more than 45 centers around the world with governments and 70 governments, that there's a more positive solution. And the positive solution we refer to as human 2.0 or enhanced humans. You know, I believe humans are curious, and we're also greedy, and that's driven humanity for the last 70,000 years. And I think there is an opportunity here to work, blend man and machine in a symbiotic partnership, and thus empower humans. So we stand on the shoulders of AI and not the opposite. So how can we do that? Essentially, most people agree that it's a matter of increasing the speed of communication between man and machine. So today we interact with, you are probably human 1.3 because in your proximity you have a smartphone. But unfortunately, you only interact with that at speed of thumb. It's too slow. Elon Musk, for example, invested, I think, $100 million, something called neural lace, which is essentially putting the phone in your head, connecting this and putting even little wires in your head. Personally, I think if that's possible, that will take decades. So by then, automation will be a fact. So we need a solution today. And fortunately, I believe, and you'll see in the next few minutes why, that virtual reality and especially augmented reality is the solution. That can help us to blend man and machine and brings the phone almost, if not inside your head, definitely in your vision. So it's a matter of using this technology in 3 elements. First to learn, then to train, and then eventually to perform. That's the ultimate goal. And I'll show you some very small, brief snippets of videos that demonstrates that we actually, over the last 20 years, and especially the last 6-7 years, have developed a very unique solution that addresses the core of this problem. And let me just start with this video. So the first thing we do is we came up with a solution that we refer to as easy. And the idea is that everybody can create content effortlessly, and it's affordable, so it works from not only fancy headset but also on the mobile. It's self-service, a little bit like IKEA, that if you don't know programming, you can still create your lessons in virtual and augmented reality. And it's interconnected, meaning that you can use it in VR, you can use it in AR, and you can use it on a mobile or any headset that exists. So it's a very agnostic approach. So, and the key of this, and this is one of the biggest obstacles with implementing VR, is the effortless, easy to use. And you'll see during today's presentation that someone that doesn't know anything about VR within 1 hour can be creating this. So it's a little bit like YouTube when it revolutionized the industry of uploading videos. It's also connected with the world's largest library for learning. We have more than 870,000 assets. And once you learned, you can then go to the next step, which is train. So obviously, in this case, headsets are very applicable. What that means is that I can have a trainer in a location, let's say in Manchester, and I can have multiple trainees around the world, and they learn by doing. So my background being simulation, what I learned when we used to do simulator is first you show someone how to land, for example, crash land an aircraft in the water, then you allow him or her to do it themselves, and then you assess them. So you can practice procedures in a safe way. You can conduct, as you can see here, remote training. But more important, you can also do assessment. So, and assessment is done automatically because you interact in a synthetic environment. So every move you make, every step you take, I'll be watching you, as the Sting song you may recollect. So this enables to get a very clear view of your level of knowledge. So once we learned, and then we trained, then it's a matter of actually going out there and practicing, performing. And this is very important, especially for the future, especially for Human 2.0, that you get the knowledge, so the workers gets the knowledge. If they may not recall all the steps, they can always pull up their smartphone or their headset, and they can get information, contextual information, when they need it, as they need it. For example, providing all the standard operation procedure for this specific device, but also being able to consult a manager if they encounter any issues. And they do it remotely, and they do it assisted, and it's done in real time. And again, every move you make, every step you take, I'll be watching you. The system capture quality and how well they perform the task. Learn, train, perform. It's a big market for this. In fact, I read the statistics. There's about 2.5 billion workers that today don't have access to any ICT support. So it's a big opportunity. And there's a lot of students, obviously, that can benefit from this also. Now, let's talk a little bit about industry adoption, because that's where the new jobs will be created and why industry is using it. So these are some industry customers that EON has been working with for quite a while. And why do they do it? When it comes to industry, oftentimes it's very simple. It's the money. So 63% reduction in training cost with AVR. This is not my slide. This is a slide that we received from Atlas Copco. And what it depicts is service technician training. They have seen that they can reduce the cost up to 92% on that using augmented reality versus classical training. Operator training, 63% using virtual reality. So significant numbers that have a direct impact on their bottom line. The other aspect is specifically augmented reality that helps the worker and gives that knowledge injection when they need it, as they need it. As a consequence, Boeing, for example, were able to get a 40% productivity increase and reduce wiring production time with 25%. Harvard has done a comprehensive study. They were able to prove that already first time 35% performance increase at the first time use. So it's very significant. So let me give you some concrete examples. I'll start with Exxon. Exxon has been a customer of EON's for more than 10 years. And they started originally with what we call low probability, high consequence scenario, when things can go accidents, and they could train them and execute in a very safe way. I'll give you another example. This comes from aerospace. We work with Changi Airport, and this is it's the #1 rated airport in the world at the moment. And they are using augmented reality to speed up productivity and also quality of logistics. So they can get a lot of information, not only about parcels, but they can also get information how to optimally load an aircraft. And if there is an issue, in an instant, they can connect with the headquarters and use what we call see what I see technology and get guidance. And finally, an example from training firefighters, where EON has enabled them a very easy way to select which aircraft they want, what scenarios they have, and being able to prepare that scenario and then deploy virtually, even select the vehicle for the firefighters in order to extinguish that fire. And here's the vehicle that I was talking about. And everything on this vehicle works as it should. And we capture all the information from the user, so we know that we can do an assessment afterwards, how well he or she performed. And this is very crucial for, as you may think, because in firefighting, you train, but you don't have the opportunity every day to be involved in this type of what we call low probability, high consequence scenarios. And there's one more example here from SPS Transit using different engines. So here, the worker needs to remember maybe 40, 50 steps in right priority order, depending which standard operation, maintenance, repair operation procedure is doing. So he either, if he doesn't have the augmented reality glasses, can use the glasses that you saw there, the tablet that you saw there, or if he has the glasses, he gets the step-by-step procedure superimposed. Okay, let's turn our attention now to academia. So the last 20 years, EON has worked with many academic institutions. Initially, there were the big, famous, rich Ivy Leagues in US or famous universities around the globe, like Imperial College, Carnegie Mellon, Cornell University, Technion in Israel, Fraunhofer Institute, and many more. Now, as the technology and the cost followed Moore's law, became cheaper, faster, better, what we've seen is that this technology now, the solution has penetrated even other type of universities, but also professional schools, technical vocational training, and K-12. And what drives that? It's things that you can measure. Attention span, for example. There's a study BBC published, attention span level double, and that converts in better retention when you involve more senses, which then translate to the fact that 86% of students in a VR classroom improve their test results. And of them, 35% increase in test scores. So quite significant numbers. And it's not so strange. We start now increasingly to get medical evidence. We see, for example, that 70% increase in memory retention in coding if you look at a normal brain versus a brain that is exposed to augmented reality. And there's more information about the values here, and if you're interested, I'm happy to share those. There's also Journal of Engineering has published some very interesting papers, how simulation-based laboratory simulation can improve education. But I want to draw your attention to this slide. If you look between 2018 and 2025, where will not just technical education, but advanced technical education, such as robotics, blockchain, AI, where will that most spending go? Interesting enough, the studies, and this is quite consistent, shows that VR and AR are far larger than both AI, robotics, and blockchain. And it's not so strange, because experiential learning is the way the new generation is absorbing information. But here's the catch. Although of the 26,000 higher education institutions this study analyzed, almost a third of them have used and engaged in some type of virtual reality development. The vast majority, 82%, never moved beyond the pilot stages. And there's a reason for that, and that's one of the reasons we addressed. I'll come back to that in a second. Okay, so let's look at academic use cases. So this is an example for academic solution for ophthalmology. It's an ophthalmology simulator. And what's interesting about this simulator is that not only the fact that you can do things you may want to do, such as dissect the eye, look at the eye, blood flow, but you can also do something that you can't really do in real life, namely inject different pathologies into virtual patients and then ask students to diagnose what's wrong with this patient. So in a very short time span, they can be exposed to a range of various pathology, which gives them confidence and knowledge. And in fact, if you look at the study, the outcome of using what they call learning pupillary examination, the advanced pupil simulator that has been developed by us with them, provides a lot of benefits. And let me show you these results because they are quite remarkable. So we have two groups. We have students and we have residents. And they were asked about their confidence to perform pupillary examination before and after training with the advanced pupil simulator. 97% of the students were not really confident, right? And before, only 3 were confident. After, 97%, it reversed, were confident. Residents, prior to this, only 43% were not confident, and after this, 94% were confident. So it's quite remarkable numbers. But it's not only about advanced things. In fact, VR and AR is very applicable in areas where it's a lot of hands-on. So we see technical vocational training, and if you look from a government perspective, this is an area where you need to train a lot more people in the near future. So everything from qualifying welding, this is a welding application. You can see that the gentleman is in the left corner here, and you can see what he sees where he welds this, I think it's in a ship, an offshore platform. So that's one example. There is many other examples. I'm not going to tie you with all of them, but another thing that is quite interesting to look at is machinery, maintenance operation procedures. And no school today can afford to buy all the MRI devices, all the engines, all the CNC machines, but we have them virtually. In fact, if you look at this one, we have what we call virtual laboratories and a virtual campus, and there you can have not only small things but also offshore platforms, machines, windmills, nuclear power plants, automobiles, etc., etc. And then when we work with prestigious universities like NTU, they are ranked #1 in Asia, we develop also very interesting content for them that's relevant. This is a good example. We started with them because of the government's initiative. They received $75 million to further technology-enhanced learning. And we worked together with them to set up the centers, but also to implement what they call flipped learning and experiential learning. And here's a very quick example. Of course, if you are in a lab, you have to be very hazard, and one of the key nightmares for someone who operates a lab is that some accident happens. And how do you predict it? And how do you, if it happens, how do you make sure to minimize the risks? And I can continue on and on with examples, but in the interest of time, I will not do it for now. But what I think it's interesting to capture that, for example, Institute of Technical Education, they are using this in volumes. They develop certified application for marine, aerospace, facility management, floristry, and a range of different applications. And this is not only used in advanced countries like, for example, Singapore, but we have also rolled this out in places like Ethiopia, where they can't afford to buy engines to train every student. So we are doing it virtually. Now, a little bit about technology. To make all this possible, you need to have some type of platform, okay? And what's unique about the solution we developed over the last 20 years is that our platform is very agnostic. It can take data from CAD, computer-aided design, from GIS, from medical data, whatever, videos, 360, scan data, and then you bring it to life. And this is the problem, because today most systems use it, that to create this application requires programming skills. Not in our case. It's done in a very easy way. Then you have to publish it. And again, there you have to be agnostic, because there's a range of various technologies that are coming out every week, and EON supports around 30 of them. And then, of course, the platform needs to be connected with AI, analytics, and a range of other things. I'm not going to go through all of that, but what I would like to give you a flavor of how this works, so convince you that you could do this with not too much effort.
Focus for this release is easy, effortless, affordable, self-service, and interconnected. Let's go ahead and sign into the platform and get started. Welcome to our library. We can now filter lessons by 3D and 360. For teachers and trainers, creating lessons is easier than ever. Let's start with a 3D one. Educators can choose to browse or import 3D content to get started. Let's first browse. With this release, we have further integrated CG Trader's
So we support 875,000 assets. It's
Let's
important.
go back though and choose to import our own 3D content.
The reason that is important is because it can take up to 3 weeks to create the assets from scratch.
Let's import this CAD file to create a new lesson. It's now been converted, and I've added some contextual content. Let's jump into virtual reality and explore this lesson we just created. This release introduces major updates to Virtual Trainer, including this handy first-time user experience walkthrough for first-timers.
Yeah, in interest of time, I will not play the whole video because it takes some time, but highlights is that you can combine, of course, in this environment videos. You can have 360 environments. This runs on a headset, but also runs on, so for example, if you take a 360, you can simply create the lesson, a couple of minutes. It's a super fast way to do it. And of course, it also works on your tablet. It works on your mobile device. So you don't need any fancy equipment to do it. So there's two things we have. We have something called the Vault, which is a vast catalog of very detailed, advanced, complete applications. And this is the largest, I would say, library, a little bit like a Netflix, with certified academic institutions in either skills or more advanced things. And then you have this platform that allows you for yourself to do new things. And this platform allows you to develop, run, manage, access, store, host, and distribute this type of lessons and knowledge transfer. So you can compare with the pyramid. The base is the platform that allows you to create new things, store it, and share it. The top of this is the vault with very advanced applications. And in between, we also created a marketplace. So your region can create new content that then can be monetized and you can get passive income from. Okay, so why is this interesting? Why the platform approach useful? Now, if we had met, let's say, 10 years ago, we would do what everybody does, use game engines, which is quite complex, requires programming skills, or at least scripting skills, and then you build everything from scratch, which we call a service or project approach. With a platform, we don't have to do any of that, because the platform is doing 80 to 90% of the heavy lifting. So that makes it more cost efficient, that makes it faster, and obviously the output is also better because we put a lot of effort into the platform. So I get this question quite often. Okay, so we understand this, but how are you comparing with other people in this field? So first of all, let me define, especially who is your competition. Let me talk about first who is not our competition. So we obviously partner with all the big suppliers of hardware, like Magic Leap, Google, Oculus, Microsoft, HTC, so all of them, I would say. And the reason they are so interested to partner with us is because we have the focus on knowledge transfer, we have the world's largest library, it is easy to use, and it makes their hardware more appealing. On the other end of the spectrum, we have the game engine company like Unity, Unreal, and CryGen. Again, these are partners and we support most of these formats. We are agnostic. Other groups that are in VR and AR are people that are involved in consumer application, gaming application, entertainment. None of those are our competitors because we simply don't operate in that space. We solely focus in one area, which is the enterprise education platform area, and that's where we dominate. This market, I think we are probably 10 to 20 times bigger than number two, and this is what we focused for the last 20 years. If you want to learn more about this specific space, you can request our analysis of it. We have a 33-page analysis. Okay, so now how do we go about to globally enable governments to benefit from that? We set up centers. We call them interactive digital centers. And what these centers aim to do and are executing is 4 things. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one is a regional platform vault deployment. The whole idea is that the center is a beacon of light, a center of excellence, which initially rolls out between 7,000 and 8,500 users between academia, students, or workers, industry, and then use that as a reference to do national rollout or regional rollouts. So that's the very key component. So they take the user from awareness, what this technology does, understanding that, okay, what it does, and then of course belief through real implementation. The second component of this is the new IP creation. So there is a lot of activities within the center to create regional intellectual property that's owned by the region and then can be disseminated inside or globally. And for that purpose, we have also this global marketplace. We have to date, I think, 41 million people that download our viewer over the years. So we have quite a reach. So if someone in a smaller region that maybe is not as is more sparsely populated, can tap into this marketplace to offer their lessons to the world. And if sales occur through this marketplace, as they occur, they get to keep 70%, and the marketplace, in this case EON, receives 30%. And the fourth element is that we actually are very interested to work together with governments and academic institutions and industries to set up those centers. So we, for example, in the Italy case, invested 75% of the infrastructure required and the licenses required to roll out the center. So we have a number of references. I'm not going to bore you with them. We set up so far almost 50 centers, and we're aiming 100 more. Singapore is an example. that I gave to you. There we work with the government together with the university. China is where we have several centers now, and we help them not only in one location, but there we work with a state-owned government called China Merchant Group, predominantly government-owned, and we have now several locations, and also very eager to work with the Belt and Road Initiative to make sure that the various countries they help with infrastructure can benefit from knowledge transfer. But we also have countries like Ethiopia. Here you see me with the Minister of Education signing a contract for a center. And in this context, we work together with organizations like UNIDO. Now, to make all this possible, I mentioned, and I'm not going to go into that too much. If you're interested more of how we do this, feel free to contact me. But in essence, that we co-invest and EON takes the majority of the upfront investment. And in some cases, occasionally, we even go beyond 75%. So, of course, as everything else, it has to be sustainable. So the way EON sustains those centers is we charge a small fee for the usage. Workers, industry, a little bit more, $42. If you go to students and academia, it's $12. And this is in countries like United States. In developing countries, we adapt the license fee so it has parity with the disposable income. So the idea is to create this lifelong dissemination vehicle and ultimately to uplift, millions of people in the region. And the benefits, obviously, for the government and the local partner is that they can use the center for that purpose, but there's also some opportunity for the local users to generate revenues. And when we generate revenues, so when, for example, applications are developed locally, 100% of the revenue goes to the local partner. Likewise with intellectual property for local projects. When the local partner wants to post these applications on the global marketplace, in that case, as I said earlier, the local partner receives 70% and EON gets 30%. There's also revenue coming from the platform sales locally, which are distributed. And to do all this, we need packages, and there's packages for schools, there's packages for campus, there's packages for big industry hubs. There's the locally developed applications, regional, national rollouts, etc., etc. And of course, we have people engaged in sales, and we have senior and junior business developers, and that results in a financial model which generates certain revenues and ensures the stability of the center. Of course, we need people. So EON helps with not only to appoint the local center director, but also works together with bringing technical staff, development staff to transfer the knowledge to the local center, and grows this over a year. So in summary, what are the benefits? So for the region, the number one benefit, I think, to fast-track employable students through augmented virtual reality, and also to fast-track and uplift workers for the jobs of the future. So that's addressing the fundamental challenge that most governments are experiencing in the coming years. Already experiencing today, I should say. Of course, strengthen partners' academic institutions, create a knowledge hub for the region, enable advantages for the local companies, make them, you remember, you can make training up to 12 times faster, so competitive advantage for local partners. Global distribution opportunities, that's quite interesting. The fact that this will be the state-of-the-art center in the region. IP development, locally produced curriculum in the local language, I should say. We support approximately 30 languages, I believe, at the moment, and it's increasing every day because we work with Amazon on this area. Okay, there's of course a lot of benefits for academic institutions. I'm not going to go into that today, but you're welcome to ask questions, and also for the local companies. With that, I thank you so much. This was a quick introduction. I know it went very fast, and I believe that you may have questions. So what I would like you to do is to send any questions you have to us. There is in the webinar page more information you can get. And if you're interested to explore the opportunity to create a center with us, feel free to contact us and we'll be happy to engage. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.